Talking football with Bengal Jim and friends. We're talking football. We hope this never ends. Jimmy, James, and Tom are back for more. Like Joey B, we're here for season 4 with Bengal guests and stories not heard before. There's Tony, Mark, and Jamie, as well as our charity, Hooday Nation joining from far and wide. Every Sunday night, the guys are back at it live. By the fans, for the fans, from day one, it's time to have some fun. We're talking football with Bengal Jim and friends. We're talking football. We hope this never ends. The Bengal boys stop by to drop the speed. Don't get your popcorn ready and take a seat. Season 4 will end with the Lombardi.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. It's draft week, guys. It is draft week, and we got Dave Lapham coming on here in a couple minutes. But guys, this is one of our most viewed shows of the year, pre-draft episode of Talking Football with Bengal Jim and friends. But James, Tom, what's been going on, guys?
It's exciting. I love this week. I think we've all done 7,243 mock drafts. Last week's show was great with Brian from Deep Fry doing the draft on the show. And this is a chance where we make the franchise better this week. I think we've got a lot of good possibilities. I think it's a deep draft, especially for the positions we're looking for. And Thursday can't come soon enough. Tom?
The NFL has really done a great job of making this an event. And I shudder to think of the days where the draft was like 2 weeks when the season ended, and it was in early January, right after the bowl games. You know, what would we do without all the hype, guessing, drafts, and now it's its own industry. But it's something we always look forward to. Our favorite team is going to get better, and we're excited for Thursday night and Friday night and Saturday day, and then next Sunday night we'll be talking about all our new presents.
Yeah. I tell you what, we Dave Lapham's in the waiting room now. We have over 300 people already in the room wanting to chat. So any questions you guys have, we will do our best to get to them. So make sure you type in any questions you want to shoot out to Dave. Get them in there now. James and I will kind of track those, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we possibly can. So no matter what platform you're on, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, make sure you type in those questions, everybody. We'll try to get to them. Make this as interactive as we possibly can. But Tom, go ahead and kick off the evening here with our first guest.
Right, Jimmy, to kick us off, there is no guy who is more synonymous with the Bengals franchise. He was an elite offensive lineman for the Bengals, played during the Pumpkinhead helmets and also with the stripes. And since I believe, maybe he'll have to tell us, 1985, he has been one of the radio voices of the Bengals. But he's a first-class ambassador of our community. He belongs in the Bengals Ring of Honor, and also as Pete Rozelle recipient, he belongs up in Canton. So to kick us off here is Dave Lapham. Lap, thanks for joining us to start off draft week.
Well, Tom, you did great, except you didn't mention what school he went to.
No waiting for that one, Dave.
the Tiger Johnson Offensive Line School.
There you go. Old Tiger, man. He was the best. Well, I really appreciate that introduction. That was phenomenal, and appreciate the opportunity to visit with you guys.
Yep. I'm going to get sick off. I see Dave's phone's ringing already. Mike Brown's calling Dave.
Man, oh, man.
Next will be the text. Don't give anything away.
Yeah, right.
But Lap, it's draft week. Like I said, it's an exciting week. We get a bunch of new presents to help fix our football team. But as you look in the roster and as you look at what the Bengals have accomplished for free agency, what have we already improved upon? And where do we need to hit it at the draft to get that team to get us not just to New Orleans, but to win the game there next February?
I hear that. That would be awesome. There's no question about that. And there's a few LSU boys on the football team. It'd be nice to win that thing down there in New Orleans. No doubt. When you look at it, though, in free agency, signed Trent Brown, He projects to start at right tackle, depending what they do in the draft. But I mean, I think he'll probably be the starter there anyway. Mike Gesicki. Gesicki is the tight end that they signed in free agency as well, projected to be a starter. And then Zach Moss at the running back position projected to start as well. So, I mean, they signed 3 new starters offensively because, guys moved on for various and sundry reasons. And then defensively, Sheldon Rankins, inside defensive tackle, great inside pass rush. No question about it. Really explosive 3-technique guy. Von Bell comes back from Carolina. I guess when free agency hit, Lou Anarumo was on the phone with him 5 seconds later, and the agreement was struck to come back to Cincinnati. So that's big. And then Geno Stone at the safety position as well. Those are, that's 6 potential starters right there that they signed in free agency. And Cal Adamitis came back. He was tagged. Joe Bocci as well comes back. So they did a good job. That's the key is they did a good job in free agency, and now here comes the draft, and then after the draft is college free agency, and then after that, right before training camp, is the second round of veteran free agency. So there are four times that you can construct your roster, form your roster for the upcoming season, and I think they did a pretty darn good job in veteran free agency in the initial round of it, and I think they're in position to do some damage in the draft. They have 10 draft picks. A couple, maybe 3 teams. I know it's 2 anyway in the NFL have 11 picks, so they're stocked. But guys, in my mind, it comes down to 4 position groups. If they can do some damage at offensive tackle, at interior tackle, 0 technique, 1 technique, the nose tackle type guy, the run stuffer type guy, cornerback and wide receiver, those 4 positions. And in my mind, if they can do it in the first 3 rounds, where they have 4 draft picks, they have 4 of the top 100 draft picks in the first 3 rounds. After that, if they nail those picks in rounds 1, 2, and 3, the rest of the draft is gravy. And they can use the other draft picks to maneuver up and down if they want to in those top 3 rounds. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen in the first round. They haven't traded up in 25 years in the first round, but they've traded back twice since 2010. So they still might do some manipulating there. But if they like somebody that's or more than one person that's going to be there at 18, I think they sit and they pick. It's going to be interesting. It's a heck of a class of offensive tackles. Defensive tackles, there are more draftable defensive tackles this year than there is in a normal draft year, but it's not top heavy. So, they don't have to take one of those 2 guys in the first round necessarily. I'm not sure either one will be there. One of them might be there. If they're both there, they'll have their pick of those 2 defensive tackles that are both obviously, great players. But so I think the draft does this draft in drafts the last few years, we've talked about it. They don't even have 32 first-round draft picks. Maybe they have 16 guys worthy of being a first-round draft pick. Maybe 20 guys. This year, boom, it's loaded. I mean, there's a lot of position groups that are pretty deep, and then top-heavy as well. I think there are going to be guys in the second round that might be worthy of being first-round draft picks. And you haven't been able to say that in the last few years, so it bodes well in my opinion.
So Dave, let's talk about your wish list. Let's go 2 drafts. First round draft pick, offensive line. Your wish, if the Bengals go offensive line, who's reasonably, in your mind, reasonable that the Bengals can pick up at 18 if they go offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that J.C. Latham, would be there. Initially, it was like, he's not going to be there. And then mock drafts here I should say early, he's not going to be there. He's gone. He's gone in the top 10, top 15. But here in more recent mock drafts, he's been there. And, is he a guy that's worthy of trading up to get? Well, I wouldn't trade any picks in my first 3 rounds. I'd trade from the 4th round on. I'd trade a 4th round pick to move up a couple of spots, whatever. If that, you don't want to go from 18 to to 8, that'll cost you way too much. But if he's still there at like 14, 15, and it's like he's the guy that I really want. Now, if you don't feel that way, if you feel like there are other guys that that fit the bill, Fatano would be a guy. Amarius Mims is a stud physically. He hasn't played much football. He's had some injuries. And Anthony Munoz could say the same thing about him, and he's, in my mind, the best offensive lineman to ever play the game. Fuaga from Oregon State is a physical specimen. I mean, he could play guard. And a lot of these guys have position versatility. They could kick inside the guard. So if a guy like J.C. Latham were there, though, man, I mean, I don't see how, you can't be excited about a guy like this. I mean, he's a huge weapon in the run game. I mean, he can be overwhelming in the run game, and he's very consistent with his play. He's got a power lifter looking body, but he's extra thick around the hips and the torso where you want to be. But he's athletic, through his calves and his and ankles and thighs. And this guy, I mean, he's fluid. He runs a 5.1 40 at over 6'5", like 6'5" and a half, over 340 pounds, 35 plus inch arms length. He's got a wingspan of 84 and a half inches. I mean, that's 7 feet 2 inches. That's crazy. And his hand, from the tip of his thumb to the tip of his pinky, over 11 inches. It's like almost a ruler he's palming, I mean, just these guys, a lot of these offensive tackles are beasts, man. And when you look at it, it's crazy because the Bengals offensive line, Orlando Brown Jr., 6'8", 340. Cordell Volson, 6'6", 320. Ted Karras is a little guy, 6'4", 310. Kappa, 6'6 plus, 320. Trent Brown, 6'8", 370. Great Wall of China, man. Monsters. And 4 of those guys have played won a Super Bowl. 4 of the 5 starting offensive linemen, pencil to start, have won a Super Bowl. So they know what it takes to win at a high level, but you can never have enough good offensive linemen. And, Trent Brown just signed for a year. So in my mind, this is a great year for offensive tackle depth. I'd tap into it unless somebody slides that, it's like, oh, I can't not take this guy. People are going to say, hey, if Murphy slides or Newton slides, I mean, these guys, these interior defensive tackles, they got to be better than the 5th or 6th offensive tackle, right, on your board? No, maybe. Not necessarily, though, I mean, it all depends on how the Bengals have these guys, positioned on their board. But I would go with one of the guys up front, interior defensive lineman or offensive lineman in that first round. And honestly, I think offensive tackle and wide receiver of the 4 positions, there's probably they're deeper in those positions than particularly at the nose tackle position. Cornerback's pretty deep as well, though. I mean, there are guys going to get drafted, a bunch of guys are going to get drafted in every round at the corner position, at the wide receiver position. It's a damn good draft. There's a lot of depth.
Yeah, so Dave, you just hit it. So all the offensive tackles are gone. Bengals sitting there at 18. Who's the defensive tackle you think might slip, Tony? So you just mentioned Murphy, right? So is that one of your guys?
Yeah, I mean, if a guy like Murphy's there, Newton, you got to consider those guys. Those are, I've tried to do a compilation of. I mean, there's so many mocks. As you guys said, there's 375,000 mock drafts done by now, and it's like I've tried to take some mocks and group people by round based on some of these mocks, and those 2 are the only guys consistently that show up, as first round picks. Now, you get into that second round. If you don't get a defensive tackle interior guy in that second round, Brandon Fisk, the kid from Florida State, he's got short arms, no question about that. But he's a fighter, man. He's a gamer. He gets after it. He finishes every snap. Chris Jenkins, the kid out of Michigan, his dad played in the NFL. Had a storied career. A very strong career in the National Football League. Smith out of Missouri would be there in the 3rd round, I think. McKinley Jackson from Texas A&M, potential 3rd round guy. So it's not like you have to get an interior defensive tackle in the 1st round. You don't have to get an offensive tackle necessarily in the 1st round either, but it thins out until about the 4th round. I mean, it's top heavy in the 1st round, And then there's maybe 4 or 5 guys in rounds 2 and 3. And then you get to the third round, there's like 6 or 7 in everybody's opinion in the third round. So I would think that if all things being equal, if they're close on your board, probably go with the offensive tackle.
Dave, talk about being close on the board. We know the need for offensive tackle, defensive tackle. Are you under the impression, are you one of those people that says, man, a first-round draft pick, we need to start him early year one, he needs to play? Are you okay stashing that offensive tackle behind a Trent Brown, letting him learn, and just saying, hey, we got the depth now?
Yeah, I mean, I would be okay with that. But you can never have enough edge rushers. You can never have enough offensive tackles. The depth of that position is key. Plus the fact that all these guys that we're talking about, some more than others, but every single one of them can kick inside. I mean, if there's an injury to a guard, inside, that if that rookie warrants being the next guy in, next man up, if he's okay, we're not going to start him here this first year. Cross our fingers and hope that everybody stays healthy for as much of the season as possible. Let him learn behind a guy, like Trent Brown. But if somebody goes down, throw him in there, put him in there, and let him do his thing at the guard position if necessary, if there's an injury in there, or center.
With that, Lap, on the offensive line, how vital is it that we get some more depth in the interior of that offensive line? We hear speculation, if they get the right guy, is there going to be a competition at left guard? Do we need to get the heir apparent, the next guy at center or even right guard this draft?
Yeah, I think that position will be addressed, but I don't think it's going to be addressed with the 18th pick. I'd be stunned. They're saying there's only one potential. I see this kid, the kid out of Oregon, Powers Johnson Jackson. He's like the number one, center, and he's the interior guy that's in everybody's first round. But in the second round, a guy like Zach Frazier, this guy is a wrestler, 4-time state champion wrestler, whatever. He is a beast, man. He's not going to quit on anybody. Graham Barton out of Duke, second round guy. If you want to go in that direction, that's a guy that could do some things for you. In the third round, they're saying as many as 8 or 9 guys are available. In the fourth round, 7 or 8 guys. Fifth round, another 7 guys. So rounds 3 through 5, I think you're going to find a quality, quality person like you're talking about. I'm not sure it'll be in the first 3 rounds. I think it might be like rounds 4, 5, and even 6. I mean, there's half a dozen guys in the 6th round. So, you're talking 20 potential draftable players in rounds 4, 5, and 6 at the center guard position, interior offensive lineman. I mean, you probably get yourself a damn good football player there.
You mentioned the edge position. Jared Verse is a name, as well as the edge guy from UCLA. Obviously, we took Miles Murphy last year in round 1. Do you think that's even a consideration for the Bengals if somebody like Jared Verse falls or Dallas Turner falls all the way to number 18?
Yeah, I mean, I think they gotta consider it. I'd be stunned if it happens. I think they would be too. I mean, I don't think they think it, either of those guys, or Latu, like you talk about out of UCLA. Chop Robinson is highly regarded, but I'm not sure that as in every draft year, when is the run going to happen? I hope 5 quarterbacks go in the top 6 picks. I mean, that would be great. Let them all get drafted. And then let a bunch of pick position cornerbacks. When's the run going to start on cornerbacks? When's the run going to start on wide receivers? When's the run going to start on any of these positions that we're talking about? Now all of a sudden you might be down, to the end of the first round or beginning of the second round, whereas at another position, that might eliminate the wide receiver position. We'll address the wide receiver position later. And again, at the wide receiver position, you got depth. I mean, I got 6 or 7 guys potentially going in the first round, at least 5 or a half a dozen in the second round. Between the third and fourth round, 9 or 10 guys, 7 more in the 5th round, another handful in the 6th round, 8 more in the 7th round. I have 40 draftable wide receivers in these mock drafts that I've been accumulating a little bit, and 41 draftable cornerbacks. Makes sense. It's a throwing league, right? I mean, we're talking about quarterbacks, and they're going to throw to receivers. You need corners to cover them. You need edge guys to pressure the quarterback. So edge is it's a much more important position than it was. I'll tell you, though, the interesting guy is, in my mind, is Brock Bowers, because that dude is a unicorn in my estimation, because he fills two needs. He fills tight end and slot receiver, and Bengals would like to draft for both of those positions maybe later in the draft. But if you could get that dude in the first round, and he's classified as a tight end. So his first 5 years of his you draft him in the first round, his first 5 years of his contract will be based on tight end, it'll be based on where he's drafted, by the Players Association. But then after that, when he goes into that second contract, he's classified a tight end, not a wide receiver. You're not paying $25-30 million a year to re-sign Brock Bowers. You're paying $16-17 million. That there's that kind of disparity between the wide receiver position and the tight end position that you're paying. Now, if I'm him, I try to get the union to fight for me that, man, I'm not a tight end. If I'm playing more snaps as a slot receiver, why the hell are you categorizing me as a tight end, man? But I think this kid he's a freakazoid, man. I think he's a special weapon. He's gonna make somebody and somebody's quarterback really happy. There's no doubt.
Dave, that's interesting. You said I really didn't think about that. Where they draft him at in that second contract. But I guess you mentioned earlier we have 4 picks in the top 97 picks. This is more of a comment than it is a question. But 4 picks in the first 97 picks of the draft is pretty damn important, right? I mean, I'm not saying this draft's more important than any other draft, but to me, man, those first 4 picks are critically important. We got to nail these first 4 picks. Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with Jim 100,000%. I mean, I think in my mind, the perfect draft would be when day 2's done, you've got an offensive tackle, an interior defensive lineman, a cornerback, and a wide receiver in whatever order. If you've addressed those 4 position groups with those 97 picks, hot dog, baby, you nailed it. And the rest of the draft, just draft for, maybe hit another position group again, hit other position groups you want to establish that you are drafting strictly, for depth at that point in time. You're doubling down on positions, and that's not to forget about the college free agency and the secondary veteran free agency market that we're talking about as well. But man, if you can get those 4 things done in the first 2 days, day 3 will be a joy, man. The pressure's off.
Dave, under the Marvin Lewis era, I think I would know the answer to this. Don't know the situation now. Obviously, the Bengals brought in 30 guys that they're pretty high on. One of those was Sweat. After he left here, he had the incident in Texas where he got arrested. Do you think he's still on the Bengals board?
It's a good question. I mean, you got to feel bad for the kid. I mean, you talk about a poor decision at the worst time of his life to make that poor decision. Man, he cost himself potentially a ton of money. Will there be a team that will still take him at the end of the first round, or will he slide into the second or even the third or fourth? Or like you're saying, is he taken off the board of some teams in the National Football League? And he very well could. Man, it's a shame. Immaturity, boy. That's a disease. Immaturity is, it's bitten a lot of people in the butt. And that guy's got a big butt, and it was busy. He was bitten pretty good. And he's sweating right now, man. He's sweating what round he's going to get drafted in. Sweat is definitely sweating bullets.
It's like that. Dave, with our roster and the team put together, we've still got a legitimate Super Bowl team. Naturally, you need good health and so forth. But we've talked to some of our other guests, and I've read in other places. Is our team put together to beat every team in the NFL, AFC and NFC, with the exception of the 3 teams in our division?
Yeah, I mean, I think our division is a tester that just gets you ready for the playoffs. I mean, it's the only division last year that everybody finished with a winning record, and unfortunately the Bengals didn't make the playoffs with their over 500 record. But yeah, I think the AFC, North gets you ready for playoff performances. In my mind, there's no doubt about it. And I do think that this football team is built the right way. I think it's got versatility within the personnel that they put together. I mean, I think they can attack people a myriad of ways, both offensively and defensively. They're not a one-trick pony, and if you have to play slug it out, physical, I'm going to smash you in the mouth football, they can do that. If you feel like you have to spread the field and attack people that way, they can do that. I think there's a lot of versatility offensively, and I tell you, they have so much speed defensively, and hopefully they've rectified problems that they had in the secondary last year that cost them big play after big play. They were one of the worst teams in the NFL in allowing big plays, but a lot of that was lack of communication and mental mistakes and things of that nature. It's not because they weren't physically capable of getting it done. I mean, in my mind, it was one of the fastest groups in the back end in the NFL. And I bet when they're done making the draft picks this year, it's going to be even faster. And it's going to be interesting to see how those guys come back from injury. Ivy and guys like that were, beaten up a little bit injury-wise and couldn't contribute much last year. So I'm excited about it. I mean, I think they can. I think they can compete with anybody, any style of football you want to play. That's a good trait for sure.
Jimmy?
James, you want to get to some viewer questions? I know there's a bunch of them in there, man. I think we've hit a lot of them.
Yeah, we have. We touched on Bowers. We touched on Sweat, the Barton kid who you mentioned, Dave. That name was thrown around. Looking at that cornerback spot, there's a lot of talk about that. You've mentioned that a little bit. Obviously, we have Cam Taylor-Britt. We have DJ Turner. Mike Hilton contract, I believe, is up at the end of this year. How important is that cornerback position? Is it more of an edge guy, a slot guy? What do you think the direction we need to go there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting what they decide to do. With Dax Hill, they're talking about sliding him into the slot. They're sliding him outside and playing him at more of a corner position strictly than the safety position. So it all depends, and I think it depends on what they do in the draft, what they do with Dax Hill, because he's got the athletic versatility to give you a lot of things, obviously. But I think it's going to be interesting. You've got. Like I said, DJ Ivy, he's a big question mark. How's he going to come? How's he going to come back to health? Jalen Davis is another guy in the slot with Mike Hilton. I think the corner position. I think there's going to be a run. There's probably 5 or 6 of them that'll go in the first round. But a guy like TJ Tampa, Lassiter in the second round. If a guy like that is there. DJ James out of Auburn, if he's there in the second round, they might think about guys like this. Sastratil from Michigan, another guy. Green from Florida State. If it gets to the third round, Max Melton, I like that kid from Rutgers. I mean, he's a kid I think that is capable. Andrew Phillips, I've seen in some mock drafts with the Bengals. I do think that. Cincinnati, I think they like with the receivers. If they do draft a wide receiver, I think they're going to draft a receiver that can do what they've done with all the receivers they have in the roster. They can line up at split end at X. They can line up at Z at flanker and Y in the slot. It's all interchangeable. And some are going to be better than others at different positions, but all of them can line up anywhere and everywhere. And I think they're going to be looking for position versatility out of that corner, that he could play slot as well as outside, instead of just you're only outside, you're only a slot guy. Now, as a rookie, they may put him in one place, but I think they'd like to have a guy that over his collegiate career has shown the versatility and capability to mentally and physically handle, both.
Hey, Dave, the most important question of the day, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do the Bengals draft another punter?
I think they might.
Yeah.
I think they could. In my mind, I'd use that a lot of those 10th picks as currency, like we were talking about, maybe to improve your position in the third, fourth, and in the fourth, fifth, and round or whatever. Use those 6th and 7th round picks, but I would keep the 7th round pick for for one of two things, or maybe the 6th, if you feel like you have to do that and get rid of the 7th, for a potential punter or for a guy that, all right, boy, he's sliding in the draft. Man, is he going to – oh, I really like him as a college free agent. But boy, there's going to be a bidding war. Hell, take that 7th-round pick and draft him and don't have to get in a bidding war with everybody to sign this guy. So I like to have that 7th-round pick available at the end just for that reason. I can't believe this kid's still here. Man, we had him projected to go in the end of the 5th round. Everybody's going to be after him as a college free agent. Let's take him in the 7th round and not have to get in that bidding war, and take him. Or, use that round for a specialist, whatever that specialist may be. And I think potentially it could be a punter.
Yep. One last thing before we let you go, Dave. Just give us your day 3 surprise, like a Geno Atkins, right? So Bengals draft Geno Atkins late in the, I think that 4th round, third day of the draft. So give us a surprise day 3 in the draft you think might be a hidden gem for us.
Boy, I'll tell you, that's a tough one because, you don't know who's going to slide. You don't know what positions they've addressed. You don't know what positions they're going to try to, address with more bodies. I've pretty much focused on the first 3 days of the draft. I don't know. I'm going to go if they haven't drafted offensive tackle, maybe they go with a guy, Christian Jones out of Texas or Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame. Maybe they go with one of those two guys as a as a day 3, early in a day 3 kind of thing.
Dave, if they have not taken an offensive tackle by day 3, we're all going to be downtown with fire hoses trying to keep what's left of Cincinnati from burning to the ground.
I agree with you 100,000% there. As a former offensive lineman, I can totally agree. Maybe they double down. Maybe they take a guy like that to reinforce the fact that, and if both make it, great. If only one does, great. It's competitive. I'm a big believer in establish the biggest competitive environment you possibly can. Like we've talked about, this team can compete with a lot of people to go to the Super Bowl. So why not make it as deep as you possibly can with as much talent as you possibly can?
Yeah. Tom, you want to close us out, bud?
Dave, again, thank you so much. Nationally and locally, you are in such demand this week, and to give us this time every year means so much. And now, when will we be able to catch up with you this week? Will you be on Bengals Radio Network getting interviewed by Jeff Hobson, or where will you be?
We're going to be down at the stadium on Thursday, and then we're going to be doing a basically a live stream with First Star Logistics with the podcast stuff, YouTube, and all that sort of thing on Friday. We're going to be at the new studio location, and we'll be covering the draft on day 2 with those 2nd and 3rd rounders that we're talking about being so important. So I think that let's say I'll be with Lance for sure, and then I don't know how many of these national things. I mean, they got all these. NFL network radio. There's just all kinds of radio that I'm gonna get hit on. I think to make a Bengals pick or whatever in mock drafts. It's always crazy, but yeah, I'll be here, there, everywhere. So beware.
Dave, thanks again, man. Have a great week, bud. And here's to a good draft this year, brother. We're excited about it.
I'll drink to that, my man. Let's hit it.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Lap. Who Dave?
Everybody, thank you. Lap's always the best, man. Giving us time. That's a great point, man. He is being pulled in 1,000 different directions this time of year, every year.
He will be on NFL Network radio a minimum of 3-4 times between now and draft night, and he'll probably be on TV once between now and then as well. He and Dan Horde both. So it's fantastic that he can carve out some time for us every year. We appreciate it.
Syracuse guys are the man this time of year, Tom.
Jesus. Well, Tom, we're not too far off track here, buddy. You want to go and introduce our next guest? Talk some more football, some more NFL draft, guys.
Absolutely, from the stable of stars at First Star Logistics, and he gets to hang out with Malik. Malik's kind of his wingman, but expert in sports wagering and more pressing the NFL draft, but he does a fantastic job. and he is in big demand this week, and we really appreciate his time. So here is Daniel Alameda to start off the second half. Where is he? There he is.
How we doing, guys?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. I appreciate the intro, man. As always, man. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Malik and the obviously first star logistics. So most exciting time of the year for the Bengals. So I'm excited for this draft.
That's right. Tom, go and kick us off.
We appreciate you coming on. We make Tom practice that intro for all of our guests 10 times before we go live. So we have a buzzer. We shock him if he messes it up. But
I was going to say that was off the top of his head. I was like, that was very good. I'm messing with you, Tom.
That's common knowledge. I'm just melting down common knowledge right there. No
Appreciate
big deal. But hey, no, seriously, thanks for being with us. We have a gift these last several years, even with last year and dealing with the injuries. If we can starve off keep the injury bug, away from the Bengals, we've got just as good a shot as anybody else of getting to the Super Bowl and winning it next year. Where do you see, as we just talked a lot, but what do you see that needs to be improved? How do they need to use the draft to get that final player, that final little piece to the puzzle to win a Lombardi trophy?
So we've talked about this on State of the Jungle a lot. In my opinion, when you look at the Bengals roster, without the rookies, this is a roster that can truly win the Super Bowl. And obviously, every single fan is going to say, we've got holes on our team. I understand the holes. When you look at this roster, I can put this up in the top 5 rosters in the NFL. I can put this up in the top 3 rosters in the NFL. You have the base to win a Super Bowl. You have the quarterback. You have the star talent on offense. You have the consistency at the head coach, consistency in the coordinators. Obviously, you lost offense coordinator, but consistency in the coaching. For me, this is where you go best player available. You filled the needs in free agency, right? Needs for free agency, best players in the draft. And that's where I think a lot of the conversation, especially for round 1, right? It's important. We got to talk about offensive tackle. But my viewpoint in the draft, especially, the later rounds, you got to go best player available. You know how many times are these, round 3, round 4 guys really making an impact day 1? Like, if we don't go offensive tackle in round 1, am I confident in a round 3 guy starting, after Trent Brown? No, it's about depth. So for me, how you build this roster, you get the best players available. And for me, if a guy like Jared Verse falls, if a guy, he's the main one, like edge rushers, nobody's really talking about it for round 1. Bengals should not draft one. I mean, you got Trey Henderson, you got Miles Murphy, you got Sam Hubbard. The way you become a Super Bowl staple in the NFL is by drafting best players available. So in my opinion, you got to go with the best players available. And I know that's kind of a broad stroke, but you cannot pigeonhole yourself in round 1 to say, hey, if just because we have a need at offensive tackle, we have to draft one. No, if there's a guy that they love at edge, you go after him. If there's a guy that they love at the cornerback position, you go after them. I'm not a fan of the cornerbacks in round 1, but if that's how they view it, that's how they view it. So you just point to the teams, sorry to go long-winded, but you just point to the teams like the 49ers, like the Chiefs, like the Ravens. They get guys that fit their system, and they don't care what other people think about it. So,
well, I'm gonna do it anyway, Daniel. 18th pick, offensive line's our pick. Who we drafting, or who's your thing? If we go offensive line, and not an unreasonable slip, but who do you think we go with? Lap really likes J.C. Latham.
So this is the difference between what do I like and what do I think they go with. In my opinion, this is where I have a bold take. I think there's going to be a couple that really fall. I think J.C. Latham will be there, in my opinion. I think a guy potentially like an Olu Fashanu will be there. Who do I think in that bunch fits the Bengals the best? I think Talis Fuaga would be the best possible fit right now if he's there. I won't go too into deep with him because he most likely will be top 15. I really like him because you can slot him into guard day 1. Day 1, you can slot him into guard. And that's, for me, the issue with the Marius Mims, the J.C. Latham is, hey, those guys are going to be more project picks because you have Trent Brown. Sure, they can step in day 1, but Marius Mims is a guy where, am I confident with him stepping in day 1? No, because he's only started 8 games. So if I had my pick, I would go Talis Fuaga if he's there. Olu Fashanu is in the same mold of an Marius Mims. If you're going offensive tackle, I would go Fuaga, Mims, And then kind of the rest. I like J.C. Latham, but round one, in my opinion, I don't think J.C. Latham's a better prospect than Jerzon Noon. I don't think he's a better prospect than Jared Verse. I don't think he's a better prospect than Byron Murphy. I think those three guys have way higher upside than J.C. Latham. How I view Latham, I think he's fine. I think he's big. I think he's productive. Consistency wasn't the name of his game at college. A lot of penalties. So for me, if I'm boiling it down, Talis Fuaga, Mims, and in my opinion, I think Latham's a fine pick, but I would rather go other positions if Latham is there and defensive tackle are there. That's me.
Gotcha.
You mentioned the fact you're not a fan of the cornerbacks in round one. So Mitchell or Terrion Arnold fall to us there at 18. If you're the GM, you're not picking either one?
So for me, how I view the cornerbacks, I would want somebody that steps in day one and I can bona fide say he is better than Cam Taylor-Britt. He is better than DJ Turner. That's how, if I'm taking a cornerback in round one where the Bengals are, this is a premium pick. This is the highest pick the Bengals have had in 3 years. So I think Terrion Arnold is technically sound. I think he is one of the most technically refined cornerbacks. I think his floor is extremely high. I like Quinyon Mitchell. I think his ceiling is extremely high. If you're going with one, I would probably prefer Quinyon Mitchell because he has the higher ceiling, in my opinion. But I would not take either of those guys over a defensive line, in my opinion. The reason why, once again, Lou Anarumo and this Bengals can get away with having a veteran cornerback. They can get away with having an Eli Apple. They did it for years. They can get away with saying, hey, you have DJ Turner and Cam Taylor-Britt, two young guys that you're confident on the outsides. I don't think that Quinyon Mitchell and Terrion Arnold are as pressing of a need as a defensive line. Defensive line is truly about talent. The best talent shows up. Cornerback, I think you can scheme a lot of things, and that's why you look at Dax Hill potentially making moves to the slot. I think the Bengals can be fine with a later round cornerback versus defensive line. You guys will see the best talent mainly comes from rounds 1 and rounds 2. Geno Atkins, these guys come around once in a blue moon in round 3, round 4, round 5. So for me, I like the cornerbacks. I just can't put them. I don't think Quinyon Mitchell day one is a better cornerback than Cam Taylor-Britt. I don't think Terrion Arnold is by far day one a better cornerback than Cam Taylor-Britt. So for me, I'd be looking at those other positions over the cornerback because I would rather trade back if you want cornerback. And Nate Wiggins will be there. Kool-Aid McKinstry will be there at pick 24, pick 25. So for me, that's how I view the cornerback position. And I'm sure we'll get into it later, but we got a lot of deep sleepers. I think day 2, there's a lot of good cornerbacks. So that's how I view the cornerbacks.
Daniel, for this franchise, it goes to the Super Bowl with the exception of the last time when it has an elite offensive line. And nothing matters. Nothing matters, no matter what we get, contract extensions, who we draft, if number 9 gets hurt. So getting those offensive linemen are critical. And really to have a top-level stud offensive line, you do have to build that through the draft. You can get a piece in free agency, but you got to get those guys to the draft.
Yes.
But the defensive line, and and everybody, the guys we're looking at are 3 techniques. We've got a giant hole at nose tackle, not just in the girth and the play, but in the leadership. We lost a very important guy. Maybe he wasn't coming back anyway. There's some reports he may not be ready to play in September. But what are we going to do against the run? I mean, is it time to panic? Do you think they have the guys to fill that void now? Or are we going to have to reach for a true nose tackle?
Yeah, and this is where we see the comments. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Once again, give these guys a like. These guys are truly the best. I appreciate Jim, James, and Tom. So make sure you guys give them a like. I think the Bengals are fine at defensive tackle, but I'm spending premium pick at defensive tackle. So when we discuss, stopping the run, this is where the Bengals could also shift between not only you don't have to have a typical nose tackle. Not every team runs with a typical nose tackle. It's nice. It's definitely beneficial if you have a 360-pound, 340-pound big boy as your nose tackle. But if I think the Bengals can get away with having a Sheldon Rankins and a BJ Hill, a Sheldon Rankins and a Jerzon Noon, a Sheldon Rankins, having these guys mix and match. So when you look at the true nose tackles as well, I don't think, like if the Bengals are looking at Byron Murphy and Jerzon, I don't think they're going to look and say, we're going to take Byron Murphy because he played nose tackle at college. I think they're just going to go with the best pass rusher because in this draft, the only true nose tackle is Tavondre Sweat. And I think he would be a very good pick for the Bengals. I saw Dave, discuss, and he does have a lot of, those question marks. But if the Bengals really are looking at nose tackle, it's Tavondre Sweat or bust. Because these guys in the later portion, you look at how many productive guys you get at nose tackle in round 4, round 5, round 6. It is close to 5%, 3%. So you cannot bank on that. Nose tackle, I think the Bengals are confident with who they have so far in the room, the Rankins, the BJ Hill. But I would just do whatever it takes. If you can go get a Jerzon Noon, if you can get, I'm sure we'll talk about later, but I love Dwayne Carter. I love Michael Hall. If you can even just double down at 3 tech, dominant defensive line will show up. So to answer your question, nose tackle, the only guy I truly see fitting that bill is a Tavondre Sweat. So I think we'll see the Bengals kind of shift a little bit away from having a typical DJ Reader playing 600, as many snaps as he did, because they showed that, hey, it just wasn't smart for them money-wise. And obviously, I'm sure injury concerns.
It's been important in a Zach Taylor locker room to stock it with captains, guys of high character, leaders. Tavondre Sweat, the Bengals spent a lot of time on this guy. And maybe they wasted a lot of time on this guy. They used a visit at the combine with him. They sent coaches and scouts down to Texas's pro day, including Coach Taylor himself. They had him in town right before the incident when he promised them those days were over. I'm reading where some guys are comparing Tavondre Sweat to, John Belushi's character Bluto in Animal House. Now, Bluto is funny. I love Bluto when I'm watching Animal House, but I don't want him playing nose tackle and trying to get us to the Super Bowl. You think he's completely off the board?
I don't think so. And this is where I think we're going to see Tavondre Sweat fall. At the end of the day, somebody's going to pick him. Maybe not, where he was round 2. Maybe not where he is round 3. But if he gets into day 3, that's where, in my opinion, I don't necessarily know if the Bengals have him off the board or not. If I'm sitting in the front office, if I am sitting in that chair, there's something. So I think it was the Cardinals. They came out with a video of, them discussing in the war room, and the Rams as well. How these conversations truly should go is, hey, is this player different than anything we have in the locker room right now? If he is, we have to look to take him. That's how I view it. You look at the offensive tackle. Is Amaris Mims different than anything you have in the locker room right now? Take him. If you love that, take him. If I'm on day 3 and I'm debating between an interior offensive line who is a very good college guy, who's not great measurables, versus a guy who's falling, who I know is number one different, at the end of the day, these guys are all projects. However much production they put out at college, they are all projects. I would be looking at Tavondre Sweat day 3, and I would be seriously I would be 1,000% looking at him. If we're talking round 3, day 2, maybe it's a different conversation, because I think you can get away with a Michael Hall, Dwayne Carter. I think there's a lot of very good defensive tackles, but if I'm sitting in that chair, Tom, I'm definitely looking at Tavondre Sweat because he's young. He made a mistake, yes, and it definitely is concerning. But on day 3, it's a crapshoot, and I think Tavondre Sweat has the potential that is different than a lot of these guys, for sure.
I agree with you, Daniel. Let's talk. I think we beat round 1 to a pulp here. Let's talk round 3. Obviously, we have our normal pick and we have the comp pick. Direction, I think we're going to go. Lap mentioned this is going to be wide receiver. As much as I don't think that's a need we need in round 3. Some of the names available in round 3 that I'm seeing: Jalen McMillan, Des Walker from North Carolina, Johnny Wilson kid from Florida State, Burton from Alabama, Malik Washington, Thrash from Louisville. What's your thoughts on that, the wide receiver pick overall, and do you see that falling there late in round 3?
Man, I just love these conversations. These are the best, honestly. Round 2, there's some guys I really like. Round 3, I'm penciling in 2 guys. 2 guys. And I watched film. We discussed this on State of the Jungle. One of these guys, Malik's guys, as well as Evan and Logan, they obviously do a great job. Malik Washington, Jermaine Burton. Malik Washington and Jermaine Burton are 2 guys where I'm looking at, regardless of the fit, because a lot of Bengals fans are like, all right, we don't just want a slot guy. Okay, but we've got to also talk about it. I want the best players in my locker room that I can put out. The Bengals drafted Charlie Jones and Andre Yoshibas. Yes. Do they deserve a chance? Yes. Does that stop me from drafting a guy? Hell no. Jermaine Burton was maybe not the most productive, but you look at his quarterback, Jalen Milroe, a lot of times he was getting overthrown. He is the guy if you want outside and inside versatility. He has the size, 6 foot. A lot of people are knocking him down boards because he has some, question marks, player concern. He had something go on where I think he pushed somebody on the field. But pure talent on the field, he's one of the guys, round 3. I'm slotting him in, and I'm bringing him in. He is going to be extremely productive, great hands. And I look at Malik Washington. Who do the Bengals love to draft as well? Productive college guys. Who was the guy that had the most receiving yards in college football? Malik Washington. Who was the guy who had the most receptions in college football? Malik Washington. What's the knock? He's not big. He's 5 foot.
But Daniel, the other knock is there really room in Cincinnati for 2 Maliks? So you just have to tell.
That's a great thing. I'm sure Malik wouldn't be too upset with adding a Malik Washington to the fold. But if I'm looking at receiver, round 3, I'm looking at those guys. Round 2 is a different conversation. I think it goes one of 2 ways. You either get a productive guy like a Roman Wilson, who I am so confident will be very good in the NFL, great hands, extremely great route running. It reminds me of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Or you go with the projection route of the Keon Coleman type. Keon Coleman is a guy where he wouldn't necessarily fit into Bengals plans day one, but you've got to talk about it. T. Higgins, right? We're not sure if he'll be on the Bengals after this year. So those are the 4 names that I penciled in as looking at, hey, if they're on the Bengals roster, come Saturday night, I am happy because they're just talented and they've got a lot of potential.
Another position. Let's talk about the running back position. In our mock draft last week with Brian from Deep Fried, I believe we took the Marshall kid who had a bicep injury in the Reese's Pro Bowl down there in Alabama. Jalen Wright's a name that I hear quite a bit. Maybe late round 3, early round 4. What's your thoughts on that position overall, knowing we have Zach Moss, knowing we have Chase Brown? Do we look at that mid-draft, say round 4 or 5, or what's your thoughts overall on that position for the
1,000%. 1,000%. I'm going to make 2 bold takes right now. Number one, this is something I don't think Jalen Wright's a good fit. And this is the one thing I've gotten crucified for. I really don't think he's a good fit. The reason why I watched him, extremely explosive. The difference between running backs at the college level and the NFL is the amount of open space. I don't love guys. Yes, you look at his stats are great. You look at his highlights are great. The NFL is about grit and grind. You look at how many times the Bengals running backs have an open lane. It's very rare. Jalen Wright's biggest issue, in my opinion, he falls over his feet. When he gets guys in the backfield, he's not great when he doesn't have a full head of steam. He is very elusive in open space, but I've seen him fall over himself, at the line of scrimmage. And at the end of the day, my biggest issue is I don't want somebody who's going to get stopped behind the line of scrimmage. I want somebody who can make a guy miss. Because if you can make a guy miss behind the line of scrimmage, if you can push a pile, those are the 2 biggest issues we had with Joe Mixon, right? Fall over his feet. And Joe Mixon was a very fine running back. But he fell over his feet and wasn't a great goal line running back. He was very productive, but there was a lot of times you didn't trust him to be the goal line running back. So for me, Jalen Wright, I don't think adds a whole different dimension. My other bold take is I think Chase Brown will be one of the top 20 running backs in the NFL this year. I'm so confident in Chase Brown. And I think they're very confident in Chase Brown. He's extremely explosive. He's very, very good, not only in the pass game, but with this Bengals offense, it's so easy when you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you got a Mike Gesicki, you have Joe Burrow. The running game should be so easy. So Chase Brown showed me a lot. I'm looking at one of 2 things. It's either a Braylon Allen, an Audric Estime, or you wait to the back end. My sleeper for you guys, George Holani out of Boise State. George Holani out of Boise State, once again, extremely productive. He's the guy where, hey, I can slot him in, and he is going to be a great pass blocker. He is going to be a guy who can make guys miss behind the line of scrimmage. So he's not a name that people know a lot about, but round 6 is definitely, hey, round 5, I would personally take him at the back end of round 4. But if we're drafting running backs, he's got to be different. So I either want a bruiser like Audric Estime, or you just wait. I'm sure the Bengals, hey, they signed Zach Moss to be confident in him and Chase Brown. But I wouldn't be surprised if they get a bruiser in round 4.
Jimmy?
No, good. I know we've hit on almost every question we're seeing in the room here. I mean, you gave us a surprise. You gave us your thoughts. I guess, it'll just be interesting how this flushes out here Thursday, Daniel, on what happens. And so the first couple of days, you guys are going to have a busy week this week. So tell everybody about what you guys are doing this week for the draft.
Yeah, so we got a live stream planned for Friday for day 2, for round 2 and round 3. We obviously are going to be going live after round or during round 1. I believe we're going to be doing that from the home studio here with Evan, Logan, Malik, obviously the whole State of the Jungle crew. But Friday, we are going to be doing a live stream. It'll be on the Sit Down YouTube channel. It'll be on First Stars YouTube channel. But we'll be going live. We'll be doing giveaways on Friday, a whole bunch of cool stuff. So I'm excited for that. And honestly, guys, this is where all of our research, this is where it all comes into play. And at the end of the day, it can all go out the window with whoever the Bengals select. So I'm just excited for it, man. We've scouted 200 plus guys. We went to the combine. There's a lot of guys I love, and I'm curious to see if the Bengals take some of these guys. So I'm excited for it.
All right, so I do got a question for you. I mean, I've spent a lot of time with you and Malik. You guys are always just so fun to hang around.
Appreciate
you
that.
You guys butt heads at some point. You don't agree on some things, right? Let's talk.
Yeah. Oh no, we definitely. It's all the time, and this is what I love. Not only before, whether it's before the show, after the show, even on the State of the Jungle show. That's what we really feel like, kind of makes us different on the War Rooms. Is hey, we're trying to act as if we are the Bengals front office, and we are. Hey, at the end of the day, this is our, and excuse my French, but this is our asses on the line, right? This is our job. So. Literally the other day, Evan and Malik were going at it, about cornerback prospects. But it's fun. It's all great conversation because that's how we all get better. So, I've learned a lot, honestly. We're discussing 2 cornerback sleepers, Dwight McLeathern, and then, oh man, I'm blanking on the name, but not Boston College guy, Elijah Jones, I believe. Those are 2 guys where we were discussing on the State of the Jungle, acting as if we were, the Bengals War Room. And it's fun, man. It's always a good time, and we know we're all very passionate, we're all very confident, and it's always a good time though. So it's just generally trying to make it a great experience and an authentic experience. Hey, if we weren't butting heads on the show, it would be fake. We're not gonna just agree with one another, and that's what obviously I appreciate Malik for giving me this opportunity, because we're all I'm going to be the GM for this week's War Room, and I think we had Logan do it one weekend. It's just a really, really good team, and I obviously appreciate being a part of it.
Daniel, that's odd. That's a true foreign concept for us, because you look. We are peace and harmony, 24/7, 365. I think we were triplets that were separated at birth somehow. It's peace, harmony, unicorns, hearts flying around
all the time.
It's incredible.
Daniel,
good luck to you on that.
Let me ask you guys this real quick. And I'm sorry if I'm putting you guys on the spot. Who do you guys want for the Bengals? I'm curious, because we obviously talk with the fans and everything, but I'm curious, who do you guys want, either round 1 or just a guy that you're hey, I really like this guy?
Zach Frazier.
Okay.
That's round 2. I think he may slide to us in round 2. I think it's an interesting conundrum for me in round 2. If it's the Ruku kid from Clemson there at defensive tackle, I don't see us not going O-line in round 1. I would love back-to-back trench picks. We see a lot of that in the comments, and it's been talked about. Protect Joe. I understand the side. You want somebody that's an instant starter in round 1, and we potentially don't have that now with the signing of Trent Brown. But competition's good too. So depth. I don't think we've had a healthy O-line since Joe's been here. The same 5 starters that have gone from start to finish. So that's mine. Before we go to Jimmy, Tom, who do you want to see? Maybe the one player drafted, to Daniel's question.
You need a name or a position, Daniel?
Whatever.
I need to go to bed Friday night before day 3, secure that if Trent Brown can't go, probably won't be able to go the distance, that right tackle is going to be secured. That after a training camp, the full off season, a training camp, and a couple games, that whoever we get on the offensive line can step in and play. It was interesting today, and of all people, it was from Paul Daner, who's another friend of the show. He was down on Mims. It was really the first time I had heard somebody local say he's not a good fit. He's a reach. He's not a sure thing. There's not enough tape. That does not equate to a Bengals pick in modern times, where I think you got to go on the tape that you have of him.
Yeah.
And I watched what he did to Ohio State. So if you have to have a name of the guys I think who will be there, I don't think Latham will be there. I don't think it's an issue. I'm going with Mims. I think he's going to be our next Joe Walter.
Yeah, and ditto. I mean, at the end of the day, Trent Brown hasn't made a full season in a while. I think, we need somebody that can come in and play right tackle. And if Brown plays the whole season, we got some depth there. Mims is my guy. I have not missed a first-round draft pick, Daniel, in 20 years. I've got him right every single time. So I've not got one ever. Except for Joe Burrow. That was about it. But I'm going Mims.
This is where I think this is the fun part, like for me, right? It's you got to have the conversation, like specifically for the defensive tackles, Byron Murphy and Jerzon Newton. In my opinion, it's a conversation, but it really shouldn't be. I think Jerzon Newton is the more Bengals pick, and the reason why is, once again, Tom, you talked about it. How do the Bengals want to go safe, or do they want to go with a project guy? Jerzon Newton is the safe pick. Byron Murphy is the project guy. Jerzon Newton was the most productive defensive tackle in college football. He was 2 years of elite tape. And for me, I look at, hey, did you do it in college of, hey, opposing offense coordinators were pinpointing Jerzon Newton and double teaming him. Byron Murphy didn't get the full same treatment. So that's where it's an interesting conversation, because it's like, hey, do you go with a project like Mims, who only started 8 games, and go for his potential? Or do you go for a guy who was super productive in college like Jerzon Newton? So, I'm excited to see it. But like I said, I think they really, I don't know. I feel like something crazy, they're different's going to happen, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know if they go with the Mims. I don't know if they do. And that's where I'm curious to see if a Jared Verse falls, if a Latu falls. I'm curious to see if they pounce on it. We'll see, though. I think
Daniel, that's an interesting name. Sorry, James, because Latu, I think, might be the most underrated guy of the draft. In fact, a good friend of ours, Brian Bosarge, who was on with us last week at Deep Fried Draft, he's a great follow. He came out with his final big board today and has him number 3 overall. And in terms of production, he was the best pass rusher in college football in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback and wrecking plays, not necessarily in finishing the sack, but wrecking plays. What do they always say they want more pass rushers. So it's going to be interesting, if somebody falls to them, what they'll do. That's why we're sending Jimmy to Detroit to grab the phone if, something is going amiss and straighten it out.
It's the one thing we didn't talk about either with Lap or with even Brian last week. I think there's a lot of names that are being thrown about. I think a lot of us somewhat surprised last year with the Miles Murphy selection. What about if Miami calls, if Buffalo calls and says, hey, we'll take that 18th pick? I think there's 5 or 6 guys maybe in that late first round that the Bengals have. I don't want to say equally, but in kind of a same box. So do they entertain that offer if somebody calls and says, hey, we'll take 18? I don't see him sliding further back than Buffalo at 28. But, hey, maybe we pick up some more here.
The only way I would do it is if it's for offensive tackle. And what I mean by that is, hey, if you got Latham on the board, if you have Mims on the board, if you have obviously Kingsley Sumatalu will be there. If you got Tyler Guyton on the board, I would only be moving back if it's for an offensive tackle. I'm not moving back if Murphy or Newton are there. I'm not moving back. I'm only moving because at the end of the day, you move back 2 spots. All right, one of those guys is gone. Edge rusher. I'm not moving back because you got the top 3 guys, Turner, versus Latu. And then you got Chop Robinson. Yeah, but he's like a back end first round. The only position I can really see is an offense tackle, or if they like corner, wide receiver. Me personally, I wouldn't. I don't think Brian Thomas would be worth it. I don't think the like A.D. Mitchell would be worth it because of the guys that you're passing up. And because I don't know necessarily, I think you can get a better wide receiver or a better value pick. So to your point, I think the Bengals should obviously and always entertain any phone call. That's how I would do it. I think, hey, entertain every single phone call, but I would only be doing it if it's, hey, we got a bunch of offense tackles still on the board. Let's move back a little bit. But I think honestly, I think they'll stand pat because premium picks are premium picks at the end of the day.
Yep. Well, Daniel, we appreciate you being here, brother. It's going to be an exciting week. So we'll I'll be up in Detroit. I'll give you guys a call. All right. So let you know what's going on.
Are you actually going to the draft?
Yeah, we'll be up in the draft.
Yeah.
Tony's heading up. Brian's heading up. Brandon, we got a big group from the tailgate going up. So we will all be up there.
And real quick, we had a couple questions. I just want to answer one about punter position. Let me just say, we talked to a guy, Ryan Reckow from BYU at the NFL Combine. I haven't really watched much of his film, but he is one of the funniest prospects, and he was a very down-to-earth dude. So Ryan Reckow, once again, this is strictly no clue about his film, but he's a guy like immediately we clicked with him. We all, like me and Malik, we had a 5-minute conversation with him. He was awesing. And then one last thing.
Bengals mailman funny, Daniel, or different type of funny?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I don't know. But continue. One last thing, Ohio State as well. Michael Hall, guys. Michael Hall, I love him. He's a project. I would rather take Michael Hall than in round 3 than Byron Murphy in round 1, because Michael Hall, I think, has the same type of traits that a Byron Murphy has. And if we're talking Ohio State guys, he's really the only Ohio State guy that I'm truly a fan of in this draft. I mean, there's not, honestly, and this may sound like a bad thing, I like a lot of the Michigan guys. There's a lot of good Michigan plays in this draft. So sorry to our Ohio State fans here.
Yeah, national champions will do that to you. You know, they definitely have guys that are good.
Yeah. But
well, Daniel, we appreciate it, buddy. Have a great rest of the week, man. We'll talk to you later, man. Have a good one.
I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Daniel. Who day? Hey,
good
James.
dude, man. Gotta love Daniel.
Who gets to call Brian Bosarge and tell him both our experts tonight said the Bengals are picking a punter? Is that you or me?
You can let our buddy Brian know. And again, late 7. I can see. I don't see it before 7, but yeah, for sure. We're over. 2 great guests tonight. But before we let everybody go, let's do some more Jungle Jam updates. Jimmy, if you want to go ahead and start off with that.
No, just post draft, we're starting the media hit. I think all the local radio and TV stations will be picking this up here after the draft. So we're over 1,600, close to 1,700 tickets sold, and all we've been doing is just talking about it on a podcast with you guys and putting it on our social media platforms. But it's going to be a great event. I know we get a lot of questions about what players specifically. Now, we did list a lot of those players. But I'm going to tell you, just like Reds Fest, it's going to be James uses the right term here. It's going to be a fluid situation all the way up until the event. We're going to have some big names, tons of former players, a really good handful of current players. And as we get closer to the draft, we'll firm those up. But James, go ahead and talk about the some of the other stuff we just added to the One Calls platform that we're using for the event.
Yeah, and I'll put that banner up. You can go there. That will be our charity platform all year. One thing, you've got the helmet out. Perfect timing, Jimmy. Those that purchase tickets in advance, advance date is May 1st. So we've got, another couple weeks. You're automatically going to be thrown into the hat for that Jamar Chase autograph. The Speed Flex, I think, is the proper term.
This is a $1,500 damn helmet, guys. So this isn't just a replica of some kind. This is the real deal. This is awesome.
So anybody that purchases a ticket in advance, you're automatically in that drawing for free. Something else, thanks to our friends at Harrah's in Kansas City, there is a silent auction portion. If you go to that page that's scrolling across the bottom there, 2 suite tickets in the Harrah's suite, up to 3 nights accommodation at the Harrah's Casino. I believe there's a $500 bid on that now, a $3,500 value. That is one of the items on that silent auction page. There's a team issued Joe Burrow jersey on there. There's some other jerseys on there that's going to continue to be updated. So those that aren't in town or not going to be able to make Jungle Jam, that's a good way to contribute. We invite you to check that out. We're going to do a release this week about the cornhole portion. There are some spots left. We do have a charity that we're going to announce this week. That's going to be the beneficiary of the cornhole tournament. So stay tuned to that. Just a lot of exciting things. Everything's coming together. The raffle, the year of tickets that will benefit the Joe Burrow Foundation. For a $100 chance, you will win all preseason and regular season tickets in the Bengal Gym section of 158. You can put your name in the raffle there. If it sells out, we'll announce it July 20th. If not, 2 weeks before the season. Just $100 a raffle there. We talked about Aloft being our host hotel. And again, we continue to add cool things to this. So we appreciate everybody that's bought tickets. Mark the calendar. Saturday, July 20th, noon. We look forward to seeing you there at Megacorp Pavilion. So as we wrap it up, Tom, anything I forgot, or go ahead and give your closing.
This isn't my wrap up, but a couple messages I'm getting. One, I didn't have to solicit. A very, very upset Brian Bosarge. The man is not happy about, quote, burning picks. So there's that. We all know that. Quit laughing at the man, James. He's suffering. And the other thing, a couple people have asked me if we could go over how to get tickets for the event, July 20th, for Jungle Jam. Where do they go? How much are they? And so forth.
James, you can put a link in the chat area, I think, for everybody. But there's two ways for you to get tickets right now. There are some fees that get charged if you buy them online. We've had, 40 to 60 people somewhere around it actually went down to the facility, Megacorp over Newport. So if you want some of those fees waived, every time you buy on Ticketmaster and all these other places, there's fees. They're waiving some of those fees. So you can actually physically go down to the Megacorp in Newport, or James is putting a link in the chat area now. And we've been posting pretty regularly on all of our social media platforms every few days as well. And you're going to start seeing and hearing a lot of stuff about Jungle Jam in the media here the next 3 to 5 weeks. So we made it pretty easy to grab these tickets one way or the other.
All that I can assure everybody that will be reposted maybe tonight and tomorrow.
Yep, 100%.
Very good.
Hey, there's a Facebook page set up, Tom, that has all the links to the hotel information. I am going to share this link here in the chat, but there is a Facebook page for those on Facebook. It's all over the Twitter page. Basically, any social media platform you choose to use, you can get all of that information. And again, if you're not in town and want to contribute, there's an opportunity to donate. And again, as everything we do, 100% of the proceeds will go to it's about 5 different charities that are going to benefit from the July 20th event, which would be a great kickstart to the upcoming season. And the link is now in the chat. Sorry, it took a little time.
This is likely going to be the biggest one-day fundraiser we've ever done, guys. So I can't wait. We're throwing out some crazy numbers right now, but as we get closer to the event, we'll get a better idea of what we're going to be able to do. But right now, guys, it's time for... Oh, thank God Brandon wasn't in there. It was Hannah. She's the best. But Tom, go ahead and kick us off here with closing out the night.
I think of the off season, this is the biggest week of the year. And like I said, it's been a little tough waiting this long, but I understand why the NFL does it that way, and we're here. So we are looking to get guys in the first 3 rounds that are going to step in and help us not only get to New Orleans for that game in February, but win it. I think they can do it. I don't think they're going to miss. I think we're going to get the right guys, and I can't wait for Thursday. So keep up the chatter and the positive waves on social media, and we will be back here with you guys next Sunday. And again, there's so many ways to access information and share our enthusiasm for the Bengals. thank you for spending some time with us every Sunday night. James?
Thank you to our two great guests, Syracuse alumni Dave Lapham and Daniel from First Start Logistics Show with Malik. I'm excited, certainly for the draft, but what's going to come after the draft, and the NFL will release this damn schedule that we've waited, I don't know how many days on, so we can officially plan our fall calendar. But, exciting time. I think we mentioned the team's going to get better. Come this time next week, we'll have a lot of exciting new players. And, prayers to Duke Tobin's father, who passed away this week. Obviously, Duke's father was well known in the NFL circles. So prayers to him. Obviously, this is his busiest week of the year. So for him and his family to deal with this stuff. So thoughts for him, and safe travels to Jimmy and the rest of the crew going to Detroit. Say hello to the crack man for us, and FaceTime us when you're there sharing a beer with him. So Jimmy, go ahead and close it.
No doubt. Yeah, just again, just kind of backing up a little bit. I think the Bengals had a hell of a free agency offseason here so far. They've got 10 picks in the upcoming draft, 4 picks in the top 97. I'm really excited about this draft. I don't know why, more than maybe previous drafts. Means a lot. I know there's a couple people asking about the Logan Wilson charity softball tickets. We will do that. We'll do that next week, guys. We'll make sure we get those 2 viewers. Will be getting those tickets next week. So, but we appreciate you guys spending time with us. It means a lot. Have a great rest of the week, guys. Have fun wherever you're watching the draft. Have a great time with friends and family. We'll see you next week. Hoo day, everybody.
Hoo day.